Welcome in, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm Braden with Archery Northwest, and today we're going to be discussing the Las Vegas shoot. I just got back about 2 days ago, and this was the first year that they changed the Las Vegas shoot to be at a new location. And we're going to talk about that first, and then we'll get to some of the results and talk about our final shoot-off. But the new venue is interesting. It's been at the South Point for about 13 years or so. I want to say since 2012. And the South Point, if you've never been to Vegas, it is off of the main strip a decent ways. It's kind of way out on its own. The food, the location, everything's a lot cheaper out there. You don't have a lot of the soliciting from street performers and all the random Vegas acts that you see on the strip. So moving to the Paris, the Horseshoe, and having the finals at Planet Hollywood was definitely interesting. First off, the food and staying there, the accommodations were way more expensive. If you were eating at the venue, things were no cheaper than $25. And you might say, like, hey, you're in Vegas, you're on vacation. But, like, when you're an archer that's just trying to make it by, I spent $140 in my first day just eating there. Not any fancy restaurants, just eating pizza, hamburgers, chicken strips, whatever it might have been in the food court. You had to pay for parking, which I know there was some paid parking at South Point, but there was also free parking. And we ended up spending, for like the 5 days we were there, I think we spent about $300 in parking. Somewhere in there. It was $25 a day, and then I think the weekends were $50, something like that. And you had to pay pretty much every time you entered or left. So that was not ideal. But it was a cool venue. We were on the strip. We had that real Vegas feel, which was something we don't normally have when we're at the South Point. But let's move on to the ranges and the expo. The expo was kind of crowded, and so were the ranges. The expo is split into two separate little halls, two different ballrooms. And you had kind of your main like Lancaster booth. You had PSE stands, some of the main vendors in the main hall there, which is where a lot of the juniors shot, and then some of the championship recurve, I think, shot there as well. And then you went across to the other ballroom, and you had Hoyt, Matthews, Ramrod, some of the main sponsors were in that building with the main championship arena. The lighting in there was way better than the flights. If you ever shot at the South Point, you know, we'd always joke that the championship had that privilege. It really showed at this venue. The flights ballroom, practice room was so dark that I couldn't even see my level. Because I'm not shooting with any sort of light, and my level was red. I could not even see the level on the target. And then when we moved to the main venue for the flights, the top target compared to the bottom target, because of the angle of the lighting, was even worse. Obviously, some people still shot good scores in these venues. It wasn't like it was the end of the world, but we got to move into the championship arena for day 3 if you were in the first flight, and it was night to day. The arena was so much better than where you shot flights at, and the ballroom was so tight for practice you couldn't even get in without having to walk out on the range and then exit through that. So in my opinion, I preferred the South Point over the new venue. It was nice being on the strip, but everything was just so much more expensive. So let's move on to some results. It was an interesting year. We still saw some crazy scores. Qualifying day 1, we didn't lose a ton of the main guys on day 1. We did lose the lucky dog, what was his name? Diotale. He got out on day 1. We lost Chance. We lost Cooper French. We lost Braden Gillantine all on day 1. So there were a few of the main names that got out, but most made it through day 1. Day 2, we lost a couple more big names. We lost like Dane Johnson, Steve Anderson, Jacob Petit, Dan Jassa. I think most of those guys ended up finishing with 899s, but a few more were down. We still had Matthias. He was still clean with a 60X, I believe, 660X, and I think Bodie dropped 1 on day 2. Going into day 3, we had a real unfortunate day for some of our main guys. Somebody like Kyle Douglas shot an 8 on end number 2 and finished with a 29X 298. Stephen Hansen got out. I think like Isaac Sullivan got out. So day 3 did break a few people, but we had the biggest 900 club yet, I believe. There was 29 in the men's, or in the Open Championship, and one female shot a 900. So going into the finals in Planet Hollywood, that theater was small. Sorry. So going into the finals, we went over to Planet Hollywood for the first time, and the theater was large, but the stage was pretty small. They were not able to fit 15 targets or so to put 2 on each, so they ended up doing 10 and putting top and bottom, which a lot of guys complained about because they just got assigned, I believe, top or bottom based on their ranking, and had no real say in that. I think that was a downside. I think shooting side by side in the middle of the bail, I can imagine they would rather have that than shooting top and bottom, especially when Vegas doesn't have assigned bails. It's just you put your target first come, first serve on your bail. But it was an interesting shoot-off. It lasted 17 ends and started off with a real interesting one. Couple guys, 2 guys I believe, got out in the normal 10 scoring, which is kind of rare for Vegas, including one guy who had a miss. And then after that, we started to drop fairly quickly once they switched to X's. I think first X round we dropped like 9 guys or even more. And it went pretty strong until about the 12th end. And then they threatened to bring a new rule in, which was scoring inside-out X's only. I did not know about this rule going into the weekend. Apparently even Bodie and some others only heard it was rumor. Others say it was written in the rules and they knew the whole time. So I didn't read championship rules since I was shooting flights this year. But that is a very interesting one because Matthias brought X10s to try to shoot inside-out X's. When we got to that final bit, our last few ends was Bodie, Gerard, and Perkins, and they were just going shot for shot till one was left. Matthias messed up his sight mark and was out, and Chris Perkins made it a decent ways before getting out, and then it came down to Bodie and Gerard for the last 2 ends, and Bodie Turner ended up taking the win. Quite an impressive showing to go perfect for 17 ends, and it was one hell of a shoot-off to finish. Some real good celebrations at the end. The stage overall at Planet Hollywood was still pretty cool, and a lot of the guys enjoyed shooting on the stage, but I do think it was a little bit cramped. So that's pretty much the Vegas recap. For Recurve, didn't follow it a ton. I know Brady Ellison won, and he also won the World Archery. Casey, I think, won the women's and then won World Archery for women's. So there was definitely some good scores shot, and I'm curious to see what other people thought of Vegas, if you enjoyed it, if you did not like it. Leave down in the comments what your thoughts were. While this might have sounded negative towards the Vegas shoot, I love the Vegas shoot, not trying to sound negative. I'm just trying to compare the venues for the last few years so those that did not make it this year can kind of see what it looked like, hear about it, and give their thoughts if they ever end up going. I know they're on a 3-year contract, I believe. So we got probably 2 more years at this location, and then we'll see if it sticks and what they improve on going into 2026. So thank you guys. Hit that like and subscribe if you guys are new to this channel. We're going to be doing tournament recaps for all the big shoots. We're going to be traveling. We'll be at Reading and doing a few of the other major tournaments this year. So keep updated. You can hit that subscribe. We'll be back soon. Take care, and I'll talk to you guys later.